Did you know that it's possible to enter someone's mind and influence it without them realizing it? The scariest thing is that this already happens to you every day and you don't even notice it. Charismatic leaders, persuasive salespeople, and even ordinary people apply subtle hypnosis techniques to guide thoughts, decisions, and even emotions. But what if you could learn to use that power to your advantage? Jacobo Grinberg, one of the greatest researchers of consciousness, dedicated his life to understanding how the mind can be programmed to accept commands without realizing it. His discoveries reveal that hypnosis is not a simple stage trick, but a real phenomenon that can be applied in any human interaction, and, believe me, the secrets he revealed are so powerful that they can completely change the way you perceive reality. But here comes the most impressive detail. You don't need a swinging pendulum or explicit commands to hypnotize someone. True hypnosis occurs at a subconscious level in fractions of a second and can be induced with simple words, gestures, and even well-placed silences. Do you want to know how this works in practice? Then get ready, because we are about to reveal one of the best-kept secrets of the human mind. Imagine you are having a conversation with someone, and without apparent effort, you get them to accept your ideas, feel what you want them to feel, and even act according to your will, all without them realizing it. The truth is that this phenomenon happens all the time around us, from political speeches to marketing strategies. We are constantly influenced without realizing it. Jacobo Grinberg, one of the greatest scholars of the mind and consciousness, believed that our perception of reality is shaped by unconscious mental patterns. According to him, when those patterns are interrupted at the precise moment, the mind enters a highly receptive state where suggestions can be inserted directly into the subconscious. This means that hypnosis is not an artificial state, but something that already occurs naturally in our lives. Think about the last time you got lost in your thoughts while driving, and suddenly realized you had reached your destination without remembering the journey, or when you got so wrapped up in a movie that you completely lost track of time. These are examples of states, spontaneous hypnotics, where the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious takes over. Now imagine if someone knew how to intentionally induce that state in you. Milton Erickson, considered the father of modern hypnosis, discovered that the human mind can be directed into a trance without direct commands. He developed techniques based on pattern interruption and the use of ambiguous language to induce subtle hypnotic states. One of the most famous examples is the hypnotic handshake, where in the middle of a greeting, the expected sequence of the gesture is interrupted. That moment of confusion creates a small gap in which the subconscious becomes highly susceptible to suggestion. But instant hypnosis is not limited to physical gestures. Words, tones of voice, and even strategic pauses in a conversation can create receptive states in people's minds. When someone says, "Have you ever noticed how certain words can make you feel a different way?" At that instant, your mind already begins to search for an associated sensation that is the basis of conversational hypnosis, planting ideas without the person realizing that they are being guided. Now think about this. How many times have you been hypnotized without realizing it? When a commercial convinced you to buy something you didn't need, when a charismatic leader made you agree with something that previously seemed unlikely, or when a story moved you so much that it changed your perspective. These are clear examples of hypnosis applied in everyday life. But what if you could learn to use this knowledge to positively influence the people around you? The secret is not in magic words or complicated tricks, but in the ability to understand how the mind works and how to direct thoughts without generating resistance. Now the big question, if hypnosis happens all the time around us, how can we control it instead of being controlled by it? Now that you understand that hypnosis occurs naturally in our daily lives, the most intriguing question arises: how to access someone's mind without that person realizing it. The answer lies in the way the brain processes information and responds to stimuli. Our brain operates on two levels, the conscious, which is analytical and rational, and the subconscious, which is intuitive, emotional, and highly suggestible. The trick to instant hypnosis is to bypass the conscious mind and speak directly to the subconscious. This can be achieved by exploring a psychological principle called pattern interruption. Think about this: when we are in a predictable routine, our mind works on autopilot. But when something unexpected happens, like someone calling you by a different name or a handshake being interrupted halfway through, the brain experiences a brief moment of confusion, and it is in that split second that the subconscious becomes open to suggestions. Jacobo Grinberg deeply studied how our perception of reality is shaped by fixed mental patterns. He believed that by interrupting these patterns, we can reconfigure the way another person perceives the world and make them react to our suggestions almost involuntarily. Now, let's see how this works in practice. Imagine you are having a conversation with someone and suddenly you ask them an unexpected and confusing question like, "Have you ever noticed that when we blink, we can sometimes feel the difference in time between one blink and the next?" At that moment, the person may become briefly disoriented, and their subconscious will be open for a moment to accept a subtle suggestion. Another powerful technique involves the use of the voice. The tone and rhythm with which we speak directly influences the mental state of the person listening to us. If you use a lower and slower tone of voice, similar to that of a narrator guiding a relaxation, the other person will begin to enter that rhythm unconsciously. This creates an immersion effect that makes it easier to accept your words. But there is a detail that many people ignore. Authority and trust are essential if you don't believe in what you are saying. The other person's subconscious will not accept your suggestion. This explains why some hypnotists achieve impressive results while others fail. It is not just the technique, but the conviction with which it is applied. Now think about this. How many times have you felt influenced without realizing it? How many times have you made a decision and only later realized that you were subtly guided towards that choice? The truth is that we are constantly absorbing suggestions from the environment, but few know how to use them to their advantage. If you manage to master these techniques, you will have the ability to influence thoughts and emotions in a natural and imperceptible way. But what happens when we want something more direct? What are the most effective techniques to hypnotize someone without them realizing? If you've made it this far, you've already understood that hypnosis is not a distant or supernatural phenomenon. It happens all the time, and those who master their art can influence thoughts, emotions, and even behaviors imperceptibly. But now let's get into the most fascinating part: how to apply invisible hypnosis techniques in everyday life to induce states of receptivity without anyone noticing. The first big secret is in the hypnotic language. The words we use have the power to direct the attention of the subconscious mind. Phrases structured in a specific way can generate expectations and provoke emotional states without the person realizing that they are being guided. Look at this example. Has it ever happened to you that you are so relaxed that your body feels lighter, almost as if it were floating? Maybe you haven't noticed, but the more you think about it, the more you begin to feel that lightness. Right now, this structure uses a principle called gradual progression, where small suggestions lead the person to accept a desired emotional state. The subconscious tends to follow the flow of the affirmations, making the experience become real in the mind of the listener. Another highly effective method is the use of covert commands instead of directly saying, "Relax now." An experienced hypnotist would say something like, "Many people find that upon hearing a calm voice like this, they naturally begin to feel more relaxed." In this way, the suggestion is accepted without resistance, as the mind interprets it as its own thought and not as an external command. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful aspects of invisible hypnosis: emotional mirroring. This concept is based on the fact that human beings unconsciously imitate the emotional states of others. If you want someone to trust you, for example, start mirroring their facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. This little trick creates a subconscious connection, making the person feel naturally comfortable around you. And if you wanted to induce a specific state, such as calm or euphoria, you can use the emotional anchoring technique. It works like this. Identify a moment when the person is in a positive emotional state, such as when they are laughing or feeling confident. Associate that state with a subtle gesture, such as lightly touching their arm or using a specific word. Repeat the same gesture or word at another time and watch as the emotion automatically returns. This method is used by great speakers, salespeople, and negotiators to generate unconscious associations between emotions and desired behaviors. Now, one of the most subtle and effective tricks is the confusion technique. The brain searches for patterns to interpret reality, but when that pattern is unexpectedly interrupted, there is a brief space of time in which the mind is open to suggestions. Try putting it into practice during a conversation. Make an unusual pause before saying something important. This simple adjustment makes the other person pay more attention, since their brain will interpret the pause as a signal that something significant is about to come. This creates a receptive state in which your words will have greater impact. The truth is that these techniques are used every day by people who don't even know they are applying hypnosis. Politicians, publicists, teachers, and business leaders employ hypnotic speech patterns to influence their listeners in a subtle and effective way. But there is a crucial detail: with great power comes great responsibility. Manipulating another person's mind for one's own benefit may seem tempting, but this skill must be used with ethics and conscience. After all, if the human mind is so malleable, how can we ensure that this knowledge is applied to influence in a positive way and not as a tool of control? Now that you know the techniques to access and influencing someone's subconscious mind, the most important question arises: how to apply this knowledge in an ethical and powerful way in daily life. The truth is that whether we like it or not, we are all constantly being influenced from subtle advertisements to persuasive speeches. Hypnosis is already part of our routine. The difference between those who are controlled and those who exert influence lies in their level of awareness of these mechanisms. Let's start with an essential concept: subconscious reciprocity. Have you noticed that when someone does us a favor, we feel an almost automatic need to return it? This happens because the human brain is programmed to balance social relationships. This principle can be used to create a sense of connection and trust, making people more open to receiving suggestions. For example, if you want to convince someone of something, start by validating their opinion. Something like, "I completely understand your point of view, and what you're saying makes perfect sense." Now imagine if there was an even simpler way to solve this. This small adjustment in approach reduces resistance and allows the subconscious to accept your suggestions in a much more fluid way. Another extremely effective method in daily life is the strategic use of hypnotic language. The way we phrase sentences can completely alter the way information is received. Notice the difference between these two approaches. "You should trust me more" here. The person's conscious mind may put up a defensive barrier. Many people find that by listening carefully, trust arises naturally. This formulation creates a smoother path for suggestion without generating resistance. Conversational hypnosis can be applied in any context: at work, in negotiations, personal relationships, or even in everyday situations. The key is knowing how to induce specific emotional states, and this is where one of the most fascinating principles of hypnosis comes into play. The mind doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality. If you've ever felt fear when recalling a negative situation or excited when imagining a positive event, you've experienced this phenomenon. The subconscious mind responds to mental images as if they were real experiences. This means that if you want to change someone's perception, all you have to do is guide them through a detailed mental scenario. For example, close your eyes for a moment and imagine you are in a place where you feel completely safe and at peace. You can feel the fresh air. Listen to the sounds around you. Now, imagine what it would be like if you could access that feeling whenever you wanted. This technique is used by coaches, therapists, and even great leaders to generate profound internal changes without the person realizing that they are being guided. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of hypnosis in everyday life is mental self-control. If you have learned to influence others, imagine what you could achieve by applying these techniques to yourself. Jacobo Grinberg believed that the mind has the power to shape reality. This means that by controlling your own thoughts, emotions, and internal states, you can literally reprogram your life experience. So the ultimate question is, who is in control of your mind? Are you being hypnotized by the environment around you, or are you taking charge of your reality? If you really want to delve into this, the answer lies in the practice. Start by observing your daily interactions. Notice how people react to different tones of voice, words, and gestures. Try small, subtle suggestions and observe the effects. Because the truth is simple, whoever masters the mind masters reality. If you've made it this far, you've already realized that hypnosis is not just a stage trick or a mystical phenomenon. It's everywhere, influencing our decisions, emotions, and perceptions without us even realizing the difference. Between being manipulated and having control over your own mind is in knowledge. Now I want to share something special with you as a fan of the channel, the power of the mind. You are about to embark on a unique journey of self-knowledge and mental transformation. I present to you The Art of Positive Thinking, a revolutionary ebook that will redefine your mental reality as the creator of this content and leader of the channel. The Power of the Mind. I share with you my deepest experiences and valuable learnings. Each chapter of this ebook is a reflection of my journey, full of practical lessons that I have lived and transformed into wisdom. Do not miss this opportunity to transform your life. Click on the link in the pinned comment and start your journey towards self-knowledge and positivity. Today, Jacobo Grinberg dedicated his life to the study of consciousness and the way in which reality can be shaped by our thoughts, believed that the human mind is capable of creating, altering, and even manipulating the experience of the external world. And now you have in your hands the same tools that great leaders, communicators, and strategists use to influence and transform their environment. But here comes the most important part. With great power comes great responsibility. Hypnosis can be a tool for growth, connection, and positive persuasion, but it can also be used manipulatively. The choice of how to apply this knowledge is in your hands. Now, I want to challenge you in the next few days. Pay attention to how the people around you speak, express themselves, and influence each other. Try one of the techniques you learned here and observe the results. You will be surprised with the power that you already have in your hands. Now, a quick favor, if this video made you see the world in a different way, don't keep this knowledge just for yourself. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. My mind is powerful and influential. We are going to share this information and form a community of people who understand and master the workings of the mind. Oh, and before you go, there are 2 videos on screen right now that will take this knowledge to another level, but I warn you, one of them can completely change your vision of reality. Click and find out. Thanks for watching the video. If you have made it this far, comment connection, stay awake.